Hello, welcome to another episode of Icelandic Roots Podcast. I'm your host, Jack. My guest today is Hafdís Bjarnadóttir, who is a composer of musical compositions, different genres, and we get into all of that a bit later in the conversation. We start off talking about, we do our genealogy, of course, you have to, using the Icelandic Roots database, and then we talk about museum and sort of open-air museum that maybe you've been to in Iceland, Eiríksstaðir. Maybe you've been recently, actually. Well, Hafdís will have some insights about that, and it's a really cool story how she ended up working there. So I hope you enjoy this conversation, from jazz to Icelandic sagas, from music theory to composition, and what it's like kind of living in Iceland, as a creative artist type. I certainly enjoyed chatting with her, so here's the conversation. Thanks for tuning in. Hello from Iceland. I imagine it's very dark there now. It's like 8:30 p.m.?
Yeah, it's a little bit dark. It's, around 8:30. And thanks, Jack, for having me. It's really nice to be here.
Wonderful. The way I connected with you was actually relevant to Icelandic roots and sort of a fun story. So I actually encountered you 2 times on 2 separate trips at the Eirík the Red Museum, or Eiríksstaðir, at the Viking longhouses there. I went there once on the Snorri program, and we had the tour and the reenactment stuff. And then I guess it was 2 years later, I was there with Icelandic Roots and with our group on that trip. Same sort of a thing, touring around Iceland, going to museums, learning, connecting with people. But particularly, whenever you were doing something with Icelandic Roots people, specifically with Suna, the president, and on that trip, kind of, the leader or one of the people at the forefront, is she will, every stop that we make, pull out her phone and go on the Icelandic Roots database and find how are we related to the people at the museum, to a person working at a restaurant, to our, hotels or where we're staying, etc. And it always stood out to me whenever I was a person from the group that was the most closely related to someone. And that was it with you. I think I was the most closely related, which I forget. I guess I could have gone into the database and saw our relations. But it was maybe like 5th cousin or closer, because that's usually sort of, when you get into that range, that would be like, more reason for celebration. And so that was, I think we just traded, social media and connected with each other through that. And then I discovered that you're actually a musician, and your social media feeds would be like all of this really cool creative stuff and a lot of collaborating with other artists and musicians. And I just thought, oh, wow, it's so cool. So that's kind of, I would like to go into both of those directions with our conversation, maybe to talk about what you were doing at Eiríksstaðir, and then getting into your music and your artistry.
Yeah, I remember you when you were there with the Roots, and I have I think we were related. Was it? Yeah, it was pretty close. I'm not.
Yeah.
I cannot remember who our relatives are, common relatives. I
could maybe pull up. What was I'll just go into the database from my computer. What were your parents' names?
So my mom is called Inga Karolína Guðmundsdóttir. Okay. And my dad is Bjarni Guðmundsson. I think it was through my mom, but I'm born 1997. 1977, sorry. Not 97.
Sure. Okay, yes, I have you up here. Let me just see. Okay. Yeah, we're 4th cousins on your mother's side.
Yes.
And it goes to
her dad, was it?
Yes, then to her father, and then 2 relatives before that. And we find our common ancestors.
Yeah, that makes sense. So after her father, is it his
There's
mother?
Thordís.
Hafdís. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
my great grandmother Hafdís. Yeah,
Okay.
she's really memorable. So it
Okay.
was her parents that are related to your
Then I guess her mother, which I've never seen this name. Groa.
Groa. Yeah, Groa. Yeah. Oh yeah,
Okay.
now I remember. Yeah, she was a midwife,
Ah.
and yeah, Groa. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's coming back to me now. Yeah.
And then on my side of the family, it was Nordal. Nordals.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that it goes back to.
Oh, amazing! Wow. Oh, that's so
Back in
nice.
history. That is
Yeah, it's
to
fantastic.
1800s, the
That
late
is
1800s.
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, and it's really fun because I have such fond memories of Thordis,
Ah.
my great grandmother. So it's nice.
And where did they live?
They lived in it's called Vatnsleysuströnd,
Hmm.
and that's between Keflavik, where the
Ah.
airport is, the
Hmm.
international airport, and Reykjavik. So when
Okay.
you're driving from Keflavik to Reykjavik, you go past Vatnsleysuströnd. But I
Ah.
can't remember if Groa was from there or if they moved there. My
Hmm.
my parents would know. My dad would know. He knows stuff like that.
Yes. Well, that's okay. Not all of us need to know everything from the family history and all of the genealogy. And actually, we could make this a whole hour, but I could find all of that info in Icelandic roots, which is really why it is
Yeah,
such a
so
cool
amazing.
tool, actually.
Yeah, it's amazing. You
Hmm.
have an amazing database there with Icelandic roots.
Hmm. How did you find yourself at Eiríksstaðir?
Oh yes, so 4 years ago, my son and I we applied together for a job there.
Oh,
So it was just like yeah. So the museum and other museums in Iceland they were just kind of rebuilding after COVID.
okay.
So they needed some stuff. And at that time, my son Bjarni, he was 16 years old. And he was kind of, yeah, searching for a summer job.
Hmm.
And I thought, when I saw the ad that they needed some guides at Eiríksstaðir, I thought it would be a perfect job for him. And I thought, well, he's so young, he's only 16, so it's unlikely that they would hire him. So I just thought maybe if I offer me as well, so we can both come and work there, maybe I can kind of support him. And so,
Wow.
yeah, so this summer was our fourth summer in
Okay, no
Eiríksstaðir.
way.
So,
Hmm.
yeah, it's
So if
amazing.
anyone was there this past summer, they might have
Yeah.
encountered you. And I didn't realize that's so cool. So your son would have been working there too.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Exactly. I don't know if
That's
he
really cool.
was when you were visiting. We didn't always have the same shifts, but
Sure. Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really neat. And so was this like one of his first jobs then?
Yeah, sort of like
Hmm.
yeah, one of his first real jobs. But here in Iceland, like teenagers, they get sort of like a oh, they call it the school of work or
Right.
work school or something like
Hmm.
that, where they can have like summer jobs for a few weeks
Hmm.
for the municipalities around Iceland. So they kind of learn to do jobs, and
Hmm.
usually those jobs they are something like making the environment look
Hmm.
good and picking up garbage and like yeah,
Yeah.
stuff
It's
like
actually
that.
really cool. I've always thought that that was neat. Like, and it's like an old kind of program, right? Like I have
Yeah.
some older relatives that like did that even as kids and
Oh
still
wow.
today. So that's really cool. I always thought that was a neat sort of program that they have.
Yeah. So often, like when kids are maybe 16, they start to want to go to get some real jobs at real workplaces.
Mm,
So most of them maybe work in the supermarkets or
hmm.
ice cream parlors or something like that. So, but yeah,
Wow.
my kids started in Eiríksstaðir.
did he or yourself, like, because it's kind of like you're doing reenactment stuff, or at least you're dressing in the clothes of the period, and so it's a bit of even like acting almost, right?
Yeah.
uh, would either of those things have been an interest or experience for yourself or for him?
Yeah, sort of. So for me, I have been kind of as a hobby, I've been studying crafts, like
Hmm.
old crafts. Um, so I've always been like interested in how people worked with the wool, sheep wool, how they would
Hmm.
spin and card and all that. So I kind of went into it from that perspective. And he has been practicing HEMA, which is this historical European martial arts.
Right.
So yeah, so he's been studying sword fighting,
Uh-huh.
more like medieval style, but
Hmm.
yeah. And he also has been reading the Icelandic sagas, and he
Hmm.
really loves stories and sagas. So yeah, so we kind of came into it with that in mind, and we are both interested in history in general.
Hmm.
So yeah, okay, so yeah, so he's been practicing HEMA
Hmm.
and is interested in sagas and stories.
Hmm.
So yeah, and yeah, we were just interested in trying to be storytellers,
Hmm.
and I'm also being a musician. I've been kind of performing and so I guess I can say entertaining in a way.
Hmm.
So I guess that also kind of came naturally to me.
Right, sure.
And yeah.
Now, is that like I mean, that stop on both of my trips seemed far away because we were like traveling and making many stops. So it always came kind of in the middle of either trip. But I guess like, because you live in Reykjavik, so are you commuting there just back and forth? Or are you staying
Um,
nearby when you're at Eiríksstaðir?
yeah, so we stay nearby. We stay
Mm.
at Jörvi, which is the farm where Bjarnheiður lives,
Oh.
who is one of the managers
Hmm.
of the museum. So she just lives really close, just 5 minutes drive from Eiríksstaðir. So we have been driving from Reykjavik and staying for maybe 5 to 6 days or something, and working,
Hmm.
and then we go back to Reykjavik and have some time off in between.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's very cool. That sounds like yeah. I also kind of work in like I work at the zoo here in Calgary, and so it's not so historical, but it's talking to people about, and sometimes it's historical, right? There's stories that relate to different species about like human history.
Wow.
So I get to do a lot of that. The summers are a lot busier, but I do work there year round. And actually, they had a new, like a polar bear habitat built, I guess, 2 winters ago now. And then they also redid the area with like the caribou, the muskox. And so it was a heavy focus for these past few winters on Arctic species. And
Wow.
so having been to Iceland then like many summers in a row at that point, it was just like coming together and these connections with like Arctic wildlife. Of course, the odd polar bear making a brief visit to Iceland from time to time.
Yeah.
And these things really combined in a cool way. So I've been quite, yeah, very interested in like the Arctic and both on the wildlife and just thinking a lot about it, talking a lot about it. It's been very big focus of mine. And then also like it comes together with some art too. Like I've come across different like music compositions that focus on that. Also maybe like poetry or writers that talk about a lot of actually writers. I'm thinking maybe Barry Lopez, if anyone is familiar, people who have like traveled and write books about their travel experiences and stuff. I find that whenever it involves the Arctic, it just becomes like the language they use to describe the nature, the 24 hours of sunlight in the
Mm.
summer, the darkness in the winter. The language will often change from like the academic to like poetry. You know, the
Ah.
language that they use, it even someone who goes to these places to do like wildlife conservation work, I find they reach a point and they're describing their experiences in as like artistic sort of poetic form. And I think that
Nice.
is just a real phenomena. Something about the Arctic areas, including Iceland, in my opinion, just kind of inspires that.
Wow. So people become all like poetic when they come to the north.
Yeah, I don't think they can help it. It's just what
Yeah.
happens. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, you might be right. Nice.
Yeah, but it is very, yeah, working with people in that sort of a way. I personally learned a lot, and I imagine for you, like, I'm curious, the people coming there, like to Eiríksstaðir and specifically, is it like mainly tourists, North Americans, other Europeans? I imagine a lot of Icelanders do these trips too, but I don't know. Do you have like any cool insights about the people
Oh.
coming there?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, yeah, so we get a lot of people actually from the USA and Canada and Germany as well. So I think, yeah, those are the maybe most of the guests are from Germany and USA and also Iceland, of course. Um, and we get a lot of people who are enthusiastic about history and about many like reenactors and people interested in sagas or archaeology and things like that. And also just all kinds of people who are curious. They see that there is something on the map there because in this part of Iceland there's like a little bit long distances between stops, I guess. So if they are staying in that area, then this is one of the highlights that are marked. So I guess yeah, we get a lot of people who are just kind of checking out what is there and don't maybe know what to expect also.
Hmm.
But yeah, but we always get a group from Icelandic roots. I just
Hmm.
met with two groups recently, and
Oh,
some of
sure.
them were coming
Yeah.
for the second time or third time, and so I've been seeing a lot of people coming again and again now.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
that
it's
feels also
becoming
really
a.
funny when I'm doing a tour and I think this person has already heard of everything I'm saying, and I'm so that's yeah.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
exposure to these sorts of things repeatedly is really, it
Yeah.
helps actually to stick into the brain. I think that's how it is with museums and generally. Like you just visit once and it's not enough time to learn all of the things. And
Hmm.
especially there, it's very much like experiential. You know, you
Yeah.
go into the house and you kind of sit, and there will be like a presentation or something, or like the fire is going
Yeah.
with some, you pass around the sword and some some stuff from that period. And I think actually as you were talking, I remember you, I think, doing the wool, like
Yeah.
something hands on with that.
Yeah, that could be. I sometimes do that. I grab some wool and I spin a little bit and show a little bit how it's done. Yeah, that's
Do
my
you
thing.
know
And
people in that period? So what year actually? Pardon my
oh yeah,
forgetting of
so
history. Would Eric the Red have been there?
yeah, so Eric the Red, he was there in the 900s, like the
Hmm.
second half of the 900s, and yeah, so that's the time period in Eiríksstaðir, and then he was banished and went
Yes.
to Greenland, and that was a little bit like it's kind of oh, what's the word? Um, estimated, I guess, is the word I'm looking
Mm,
for.
yeah.
It's estimated that Leif Erikson was sailing to Vinland around the year 1000 or so.
Hmm.
So yeah, so when he was in Iceland, Leif Erikson, then he was just a kid. So
Hmm.
just for those of who are listening and don't know Eiríksstaðir so well, so Eric the Red was the father of Leif Erikson. Yes.
Yes. And yeah, actually, I should have remembered that, and we all should remember that. These are really like the beginning of history of Iceland, right? And like kind of the
Yeah.
first generations of people living there that had these stories that have now become kind of like larger than life. You know,
Yeah,
these
exactly.
figures are so iconic. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's
Did,
amazing. I was just um yeah, I went to this short festival this summer when where they were reading from Saga, which
mm,
is happens in the south of Iceland, and I always get tears in my eyes when the kind of highlight of the story is being read. I
mm,
always get tears in my eyes, and this story is more than 1,000 years old or so. So
yeah.
it's yeah, crazy.
Hmm. And I think it's important to remember that as the stories were written down, like it's the people that live these lives, right? But
Yeah,
then it is the people, whether it is themselves or passed on as oral stories, people writing later. That act of saving them as stories, that is an artistic process, right?
that's a good
I mean,
point.
even if you're a pure historian just trying to write, you cannot help. You will write it a little bit with your own bit to it, right? So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, that must be the case. I mean, yeah, yeah, I think that must be the case. Like the story, it can't be completely unchanged when people tell it again and again,
Hmm.
generations after generations. So when someone sits down and actually writes everything down, he or she must kind of embellish a little bit or
Hmm.
add a little touch to it.
Yeah, and whether that becomes further from the truth or in some ways actually more closer to the truth. Because again, I
Yeah,
think of like the people are writing about Arctic landscapes and they have to use the language of poetry to describe it. And then it's like I don't know. Also, if you're just there, if you're in Greenland or something and you're just looking at the nature, it can feel like just very normal, like whatever. It's just like
yeah.
it's beautiful, but it's there. But then writing about it and really getting into the details, you kind of elaborate on it. But it is true, like all of that is there. The beauty of it is so endless. So I think sometimes, like this act of writing and putting it down, it's unless you're just making stuff up and you're making it fiction. But if you are trying to stay true to reality, I think adding stuff, adding emotions and that sort of a thing, it brings more out of it, which was always there, but we sometimes ignore when you're just living it.
Yeah, and I think with the Icelandic sagas, I really love how they show emotions or not show emotion. It's hard to say because they never say in those books what someone is thinking. They
Mm,
only describe their actions or what appears in front of them. Like when Egil Skallagrimsson, he is depressed. They don't say Egil was depressed. They say Egil went to bed and he didn't want to come out of his bed and he
mm,
didn't want to eat. They describe what he's doing, not what he's thinking. I think that's a really fun thing with Icelandic
yeah.
sagas.
No, that's a very good point, actually. Yeah, maybe just difference in writing styles across the generations.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you
Definitely.
think? Do you know? Were people in that era? Were they making music? Were they listening to music? I
Ooh,
mean,
that
singing.
is
I imagine maybe chanting,
yeah.
that sort of a thing. Would they have had an instrument with them?
It's hard to say. So
Hmm.
in Iceland, there hasn't really been found anything from the 900s. Um, and I think the first uh, documentation of an instrument. I'm not really an expert on this, but if I remember correctly, it's from the 1300s or 1400s, something like that. And it was some kind of a harp, like a, Celtic harp. I actually have one here by coincidence,
Oh, cool.
something like that. So it's some kind of harp or
Mm.
lyre or something.
Hmm.
So yeah, and unfortunately, in the Icelandic sagas, they don't really talk about
Yeah, I can't think of
music.
music ever really being referenced that I know.
No, exactly. So, but there is a lot of poetry,
Hmm.
and like people are, some people are saying that maybe they sung the poems
Mm.
or performed them somehow in
Hmm.
some way, and that maybe even the stories themselves
Mm.
survived as some kind of song and dance or poetry before they were written. That's also something I've heard.
Hmm.
That's what they did in the Faroe Islands. They are still singing and
Okay.
dancing their sagas,
Yeah,
which
okay.
is super cool, super cool.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I'm not sure. Yeah,
Hmm.
there's too little documentation, I feel, but we have some, yeah, some mentioned of, I think it was the 1300s or 1400s,
Hmm.
the first mention
Yeah,
of instruments that I remember
interesting.
at least. Yeah.
I guess one can then only speculate if there's no direct evidence. Do you think this would maybe give an inkling,
Yeah.
having these folks as your heritage, this long lineage throughout, the Icelandic genealogy? Do you think Icelanders in general, this is a really broad question, maybe an impossible question, you could answer for yourself, of course, but do you think Icelanders are like a generally musical people?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, Actually, well, I noticed that there's a lot of people singing in choirs in Iceland.
Yes,
That's
for sure.
really, really
Hmm.
popular. So
That's true.
all kinds of choirs, like we have the police choir, and we have a choir with people who are interested in horses, and
Hmm.
men's choirs all over the country. And in Skagafjörður, in the north of Iceland, there's like a high percentage of tenors, like really good male singers. And yes, so yeah, yeah, I feel that a lot of people are musical here. I don't know how we compare to other nations, but yeah, yeah, I feel we are musical. I I wish we were. I wish we did more dancing than we do.
Mm.
I feel like in the culture that maybe dancing was kind of taken away from us.
Hmm.
It was, yeah. So yeah, it's hard to find an Icelander dancing who hasn't had a few drinks before. So
I think that is just generally true of maybe you would say Western society.
yeah,
And I know, like, my grandparents' generation, they danced a lot more than
yeah,
my generation does.
yeah,
Unless, again, it's as you say, you seem to have to be inebriated, like under the influence of alcohol at a, dance club.
yeah,
Otherwise, you don't really do it. And I think alcohol was maybe involved in my grandparents' generation too, but not only.
yeah,
They would
yeah,
just get together and dance, and that's often how a guy and a lady would meet. Is
yeah,
dancing
exactly.
and something like that. So it does seem to me in North America, and I think maybe much of Europe too,
Yeah,
just the kind of more casual dancing is not
yeah,
so much done
yeah.
unless it is like in a alcohol kind of party setting. And I think that's really sad. That's a
Hmm.
really not a good trend.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree so much. Yeah, I think there used to be much more dancing, but at some point in history, it was forbidden or frowned upon or something like
Mm,
that. And I think Icelandic culture never really recovered from that.
hmm.
I feel. I
The
don't know.
the the point on the men's choir is very
Yeah,
good, and maybe that is, yeah, maybe that's an insight that in the male Viking lineages they were singing these poems back in the
yeah,
day, right?
maybe,
Because that
maybe.
is, I think, something very unique. I think, yeah, like a lot of a lot of male choirs. That stands out in particular, being not solely unique to Iceland, but more prevalent there than you find in other places.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and then of course, at least when I was a kid, there were so many bands everywhere.
Mm.
So kids were forming bands, and I think that was partly because there was nothing else to do. There was not a lot of things, not a lot of
Mhm.
options for entertainment. So kids were playing in bands everywhere, and they still are more than I would expect. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
even though they have all these other options, they still
Mhm.
meet up and perform, and there's this competition every year, the battle of the bands, and
Mhm.
yeah, that's surprisingly popular.
Yeah, well, that's very good. Was there like this? Did the rock wave, we had the British invasion
Yeah,
come, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones here. I imagine that, did it sweep through Iceland? You're getting it
yeah.
on the radio and that sort of thing and the vinyls, yeah.
Yeah, it did as well here. And
Mhm.
it was like people, they either were Rolling Stones people or the Beatles people, so it was like yeah, two camps, Beatle camp
Uh-huh.
and Rolling Stones camp. And at first, like, we only had one radio station until 1980 something. I even remember when I was a kid when
Wow.
the radio station number two started airing, and the other one was the Rás 8, the national radio.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, so like, I guess when the rock and roll was sweeping through everything, um, people would get new albums in Keflavik, where the U.S. had the naval base. So people who were working there, they could get some records from
Wow.
the U.S. and so that's how that spread, because this one radio channel was not necessarily playing
Mhm.
this music. It was more like a conservative radio
Mhm.
channel.
And
Yeah.
now going a bit from that, when you yourself were young, like what were some musical influences? And I guess we can ask directly about like your activities as,
Oh
I
yeah.
guess, like a musician, composer, etc. What is that experience like for you? Were you interested in music as a small child? Did it come later in life?
Oh yeah. So that's a good question. So when I was a kid, yeah, there's only one radio station, and then my dad, he had a lot of vinyl records. His brother worked at the naval base, so so my dad was used to getting a lot of fresh records when he was younger, and
Yeah,
he was
lucky.
really, yeah, he was really interested in music, and so I heard actually a lot of music at home when I was a kid, and all kinds of music, everything like jazz music and also country music and blues and just, yeah, all kinds of stuff, and Icelandic music, of course, as well. And then yeah, so the influences when I was a kid. I'm born 1977, and there was a lot of, like, when I was a kid, there was a lot of influence from the UK, and there always has been a lot of influence from there. There has been a lot of like when musicians were recording, Icelandic musicians were recording, they would often fly to London to make an album. So it's shorter than flying to the US. It's only 2 hours, I think. So yeah, so yeah, a lot of influence from the UK, but also from the US. But yeah, we were a little bit limited on TV stations as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, but there was this one program a week with new pop and rock music. It was on Fridays, and I always watched that. So then we could hear like what's new in US and
Mhm.
and UK.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, so exposed to a lot of different genres. And then when
yeah.
did you yourself start? Maybe did you get an instrument at a young age? Was it like education in school, good music classes, or something like this?
So for me personally, my sister had a guitar,
Hmm.
and I kind of messed around with her guitar when I was a kid. So I didn't really take any instrument lessons. I had friends
Mm,
that were learning music. They At that time you could only get lessons in classical music, and yeah, I was a really shy kid. I
mm.
didn't want to take lessons because I just didn't want anyone to hear me struggle on an instrument or something like that. And yeah, it sounded scary to me. So I was
Mm.
just trying out stuff at home where no one really did hear what I was doing. So yeah, so I started learning. I took some lessons when I was 14 years old. Also 12 years old, actually. Yeah, I just took a few lessons and yeah, few courses. When I was 14, I had the opportunity to take lessons with rock musicians and jazz musicians, and that was exactly what I wanted.
Mm.
So yeah, but I didn't really start formally learning music until I was 18.
Mhm.
And before that, I was just kind of self-taught, trying to pick up music by listening to tapes and rewinding and listening again and rewinding and back and forth until I got what was happening. So
Hmm. Did you find like that was okay for you? Like it was you were quite able to just kind of pick things up and at least have fun in trying to recreate some stuff and play around?
yeah, that was
Hmm.
actually uh, I actually had an easy time. Well, it wasn't so hard for me to pick
Hmm.
just things up. Um, I was this kid that always, if I went visiting someone who had a piano, I would just go straight through the piano and just hammer on the piano, trying to find songs and pick up melodies and stuff like that. So I was a terrible guest at other people's homes. And sometimes I would even like visit people only because they had a piano or only because they had an instrument. So that I know it's terrible, but yeah, I think I
No,
was
that
just
sounds
really
very reasonable to
I
me.
was really interested.
Mhm.
But my family didn't have a piano, but we had this guitar, and my brother, he gave me once from my birthday, they like this tiny little keyboard
Mm.
Casio thing,
Mhm.
and I was hammering on that as well. So yeah, it was fine. I just got used to, like, I didn't really have access to any other way of learning this. So that's just what I did then, I guess, to just try to figure it out myself. And yeah, I guess, yeah, I think my ears are my what should I say? Yeah, I'm grateful for my ears. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. Did you eventually come to terms with like traditional musical theory?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I actually did. So I decided to apply for a music school when I was 17 or 18, something like that. So I had heard that a school that is called Tónlistarskóli FIH,
Mm.
which is the music school of the musicians union or guild or something like that. Félag Íslenskra hljómlistamanna. They had a music school and still have. And this was the only school in Iceland that had a formal education in other music than classical music.
Hmm.
So I decided to just try to apply and see if I could get in. And they had you had to take like you had to do an audition to get into this school, and it was
Wow.
not easy to get in. So I was super happy when I heard that they took me in, and then I was in the deep. I was just going for it and learning theory, practicing to read notes, yeah, all that stuff. but I'm a little bit slower on note reading than many other people are, many other musicians.
Hmm.
Yeah, because I didn't really use them until I was 18, so
Hmm.
not so much at least. So yeah, but I actually love music theory, especially jazz music theory. I
Okay.
just really love it so much. I am less into classical music theory,
Mm.
but maybe because I learned jazz theory first.
Yeah, that's really interesting to me personally. My mom is a piano teacher, and that's kind of been like her main job throughout my life. She like taught in a classroom too, but she would always have music students in the house teaching them piano. And so when I was a little kid, I don't know if because that's what she did, I was kind of like, that's not something that I want to do. So we never did like the formal lessons, but I would always just have fun on the piano and play
Yeah,
around with stuff. And then as I got older, I started realizing like, oh, this would actually be really cool to learn. But I don't know, I felt like I wanted to skip over the actual learning process. And I
hmm
thought, oh, well, this is great. My mom like knows everything how to read music. I can just tell her the pieces I want to learn. She can read the music for me, and then I can just memorize them and learn them. And so it was great, and I've done that a lot, and I have these pieces that are just in my brain now, and some like one that I'll never forget, I hope for the rest of my life, is a Miles Davis piece, All Blues,
Oh
and
yeah,
it's like this fun kind of chording, and it just flows well.
yeah,
And having learned that, it actually allows me to I can like sit down at the piano and start with that, and then from there just build all these other things, and so I
yeah,
can have a lot of fun with it, but I still have never learned how to read music. And so
yeah.
I don't know if I've gone too deep now. I think that I can do it. I just need to sit down, have the time for it. But yeah, I don't know. I want to think that I'll be okay, but I also am partially like maybe my brain, I can only like learn by feel. I don't know. It's
I think it
fascinating.
will be fine. I think it will be
Yeah.
fine. Like, I don't know if you can hear it, but my husband is in the next room hammering on a guitar. I don't know if the recording picks
No,
that
no, I
up or
wish
not.
it was actually. I can't hear it.
But he doesn't read notes at all. He
Mm-mm.
just has been playing for decades and he doesn't
Mhm.
read notes and he is fine. I know I'm not supposed to say that because I'm a music teacher, but
Yeah.
I mean he survives. He just
Mhm.
learns the songs and yeah, I mean, anything is possible. And I think the most important thing is to have fun and to kind of feel feel the music. To just, I think that's the most important bit. I'm also this kind of mom that has students at home, and my son is hearing them and all that. But but I always think the first thing, like the most important thing, I want my students to get out of the lessons is uh, that they can kind of get some relief through music. They
Mm.
can uh, get emotional relief, or they can have fun,
Mhm.
or it can do something for their soul. That's what
Yeah.
is most important for me,
Mhm.
whether they will read notes or not.
But if you were to compose some music,
Yeah,
unless you remember that forever, if you just made something up, because I've done this a lot, I will make
hmm,
something on the piano, and I
yeah,
think, oh man, I wish my mom was here, because how am I ever going to write this down and remember this? I don't even really know what notes I'm playing.
yeah,
So if you were doing that, really important to know how to transcribe music, right? And
yeah.
maybe I'd be curious about your experience. You've composed some pieces. What is that like for you?
Yeah, so I use many methods of composing. So when I was younger and I was just playing in my room and didn't really have a lot of education, I used guitarists have this kind of tab system where the strings of the guitars are written out and you write numbers on them. And this system is often looked down on or frowned upon by serious musicians. But this was super helpful for me. I wrote stuff down like this when I was younger, and still do actually sometimes when something is really specific. I want it fingered like that, or I want it here on the instrument, something like that. Then I still use sometimes this number system in the process, at least, of composing. But sometimes I just sit down and play around, see what happens. But I also have, I sometimes also make all kinds of systems for myself, or like rules, or yeah, I restrict myself by using certain methods or systems. So speaking of, because you were talking about the Arctic and the light, the long summer nights and the short winter days. So I, for example, made a composition that is based upon the height of the sun over a whole year. So I took data about how high the sun is over a whole year, and I made music out of that by transferring the data into music. So I
Hmm.
like to challenge myself in ways like that.
Sure. And what what is the transition? What do you translate from the sun data
Yeah, so
into
it was
music?
something like how um, oh, what's the name? Uh, it was like how high it
Sure.
goes, like
Hmm.
in, and when the sun comes up, what time it comes up, what
Mm.
time it goes down, what time it is the highest, and how high, and
Hmm.
stuff like that. So um, so just so I simplify to simplify it. I basically had the uh, like the darkest period of the year was like the deepest on the
Ah,
instrument, and the
okay.
highest, like the brightest was the highest, but the transitions followed some data I found
Sure.
online.
Yeah.
So yeah, stuff like that. I really love playing around with systems.
Hmm.
That's
And then when something like that comes to be, like, what do you call it? What kind of a music is that, right? Like,
ooh, yeah, that's the tricky part.
yeah, when you get
So
into definitions of genre and stuff like
oh my
that.
gosh, yeah, that's the hard part.
Yeah.
So in my music, in my case, because I kind of started self-taught, and then I studied
Hmm.
jazz, and then I studied contemporary classical composition. So kind of my um, journey in music has been a mishmash of all kinds of stuff. So
Hmm.
it depends a little bit on what I'm composing for or who I'm
Hmm.
composing for. So
Hmm.
sometimes I'm composing music for classical instrumentalists.
Hmm.
And I guess in that case, the music is maybe closer to being classical contemporary, because also the style of the musicians will influence how the outcome is, because they have been trained in a
Hmm.
certain way. And then when I'm writing for jazz musicians, then it tends to become more jazzy, and then I'm also having fun to mix up the groups. For example,
Hmm.
putting a jazz trio in a chamber orchestra and having them kind of play together.
Wow. Yeah.
But then it's really hard to say, like, what kind of music is it? Is
Yes.
it jazz? Is it contemporary classical?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
No,
I,
I ask
yeah,
that not looking for a specific answer. It's just kind of like a fun talking point because I agree.
yeah,
It's, yeah, stuff like that. I don't think it needs to have like a definition of, oh, this is this genre or that.
exactly. Yeah,
But I like the idea of mixing things and just trying to see what new can be done. You know,
yeah,
I think that's maybe where we exist in the world today is that you can just mix stuff up in
yeah,
whatever art you are doing, whatever it is. You can just mix, even in this conversation, for example, right? We can talk about like some aspects of history and then now like into music. And it's like that can be all in the same conversation. You don't have to make these separate things. It's just
Exactly.
creative, whatever.
Yeah, that's what I
Hmm.
feel too. And yeah, I don't know. I My aim has always been to just explore and learn. So I have kind of been thinking like about my music career. It's kind of like it's it's very like small and not like I'm not like world famous or anything, but I don't really mind because what I want to do is to learn and
Hmm.
explore. And I've had like opportunities in life where I could have kind of gone just one narrow way or just followed
Hmm.
one path and just done that. And it's maybe a mixture of me being naive and also me being stubborn that I just want to have fun and play around with all kinds of stuff. So so here I am working in a museum and making strange music. But I love it. I mean, it's a fun life. So yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah, I think that's the definition of like a good life, is just where
Yeah.
you're doing something that allows you to have fun. And like, I don't know, it just has me thinking about that, but broadly for people all around the world. And my like real sincere hope is that everyone can experience that. I think what gets in the way is you have to live up to certain expectations depending on what culture you live in. And then of course you have to like have money to feed yourself, to pay for housing, etc., etc. And so these are the things that, important as they are to like maintain society, that's what gets in the way of people having like a creative life and being able to do stuff and just pursue curiosity, like you say, and to learn to have fun. Like it doesn't need to be anything more than that.
Yeah.
But the problem is we often feel like we need to fit it into something. Like, well,
Yeah.
my musical career needs to be a commercial success because I don't know, society
That's what
tells me it
people
needs
do
to be
or
that way.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I should feel like wanting, or
Hmm.
that's what I feel that I should want to go after or something. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just, yeah, I don't know. I'm always drawn to people who are just living like a real life, genuine.
Yeah.
They're just pursuing things and they do different things. And yes, you need to have a job to work and these sorts of things, but it all aligns with like, well, I'm learning and it's fun for me. Everything
Yeah.
else doesn't matter so much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it makes me think about Thordis, my great grandmother again. Like she lived in a turf house
Yeah.
and had her children in a turf house, and she just lived this very modest life. But she also had this beautiful flower garden that she tended to, and yeah, so it's fun to have this kind of project that isn't only to feed your family or show off or
Hmm.
whatever. It's just pursuing something for the beauty of it, for the meaning of it
Hmm.
for yourself. I Yeah, it just yeah, I think that's kind of nice.
Yeah. No, me too. Do you find it relatively easy or doable to kind of live this sort of life in Iceland? Like specifically, like
uh,
culture wise, I know like Reykjavik, for example, feels to me like very artistic. The way the houses are painted, these sorts of things. But I do know that in terms of economics, things can be expensive. But then there is
yeah,
does seem to be like a good like social net, and everyone kind of can attain a certain level, which I don't think is true uh, in much larger countries to that same degree. So, anyways, do you think it's those kind of things add up and help
yeah,
someone pursue a creative life?
yeah. I feel that actually. I feel that. Well, some people have to work a lot here, um, but there is a good social security net here. Like we have education is not terribly expensive, and
Mm.
healthcare isn't terribly expensive either. And yeah, I'm really grateful for those things. For example, going to music school, it was not cheap. I mean, yeah, I paid for that myself with my hard-earned summer job money, but it was possible. It was possible,
Mhm.
and uh, and I just come from a pretty like yeah, middle class, lower class background.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's possible. At least when I was a kid. I don't know how it is now, but yeah, I feel so many people in Iceland are doing something creative. Like
Yeah.
my cousin is a farmer, and he was just publishing a crime novel the other day, for example.
That is
So
so cliche for an Icelander.
that's so Icelandic.
Yeah.
A farmer who makes crime stories, and yeah, and like I feel like so many people are doing something creative here.
Mhm. And, like,
Uh,
from the top down, like,
yeah,
it's in people like you can think of Eliza Reid, for example,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
she's promoting the arts and literature and that sort of a thing. So there's people nested in all sort of parts of society, from farmers to,
yeah,
politicians, right?
yeah. And Eliza Reid is also writing books and publishing. Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, everyone, everyone is doing
Uh-huh.
it, and yeah. So for me, my kind of work life is a little bit like a quilt. I do a little bit
Hmm.
of this, a little bit of that, like a little bit of museum in the summer, a little bit
Mhm.
of teaching, and I also do a lot of kind of projects in music and stuff like that. So yeah, it kind of works, and of course it's expensive to live in Iceland, but I was actually being Generation X, I managed to buy
Mm.
a home before it became almost impossible. So
Yeah.
yeah, and that was like a top priority when I was a teenager. I just
Mm.
said I have to buy an apartment. That's top priority.
Mhm.
University, everything else, it doesn't matter. Just apartment, top priority, and that's one of the best decisions I made.
Mm.
So because of that, I haven't really been bogged down by paying expensive rent, for example. But
Mhm.
I know about people in Iceland that they just have to be working all the time because housing is
Yeah.
so expensive.
Mhm.
But I was lucky, so I can use some bit more time for adventure and creative projects.
Yeah, it's all this balancing act,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, as we maybe begin to wrap up here, is there anything else that you think would be interesting to talk about, like any specific pieces of music that you are proud of, or kind of projects we sort of skipped over? Not that this has to be a full biography of your life, but how did you maybe first start to like actually create music on your own or making compositions? I don't know. Maybe is there anything there?
Yeah, so I was always kind of dabbling in that. Even when I was just a small kid, I was sitting
Hmm.
maybe outside, banging a bucket and singing my own little songs. But but I guess just gradually. Yeah. When did it start? I guess it started when I was participating in school events. Like I would sing my little songs and play guitar, and then I was involved in a play in gymnasium. I was making music for a play, and then also in my jazz studies, we learned a little bit in composition, and we were actually required to bring new music. So I had to make music for for that, and I guess I just found out that this was something I could do. So I decided to learn more. After I graduated jazz school, I went to learn composition. And yeah.
And what is the most a piece that you are very proud of? Maybe not the most proud of, but one that you think that is
Yeah.
good. I see a lot in there that I like, that was fun to make.
Yeah, so yeah, there's a lot of fun things. So my favorite music, or that I have made myself, I guess one of them is the album Já.
Hmm.
And I think I'm happiest with that album of my albums. But I also, maybe this is of interest to people in Icelandic roots. I actually made an album with nature sounds, Icelandic nature sounds, and it's called Sounds of Iceland. It's not on Spotify for a reason, but it's on Bandcamp. So if anyone is using Bandcamp and you
Okay,
find me
yeah.
there,
Hmm.
you will find this album, and this album has field recordings from all around Iceland. So if you want to take a little trip around Iceland in your mind, you can just pop on some headphones and listen to this album. I guess that might be of interest to your
Yeah.
listeners to
No, and
go
I
to
did
Iceland.
come across this on your website, so I will put
Yeah,
that link in the podcast. And then Yao is available on YouTube. People
yeah,
can listen
it's on
there too.
YouTube. Yeah, exactly. And on YouTube also, I have a little channel there.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a music video there with a poem by Einar Már Guðmundsson, and this poem is called uh, Tunglsjúkar nætur. So there, it's in Icelandic, but there is an English translation of the lyrics if anyone is interested in kind of enjoying it both in English and Icelandic.
Yeah, and this has like a cool video
Yeah.
to go with it as well. Did you make that or
No, it
work
was
with
a
someone?
Finnish artist called Laura Matikainen. She made
Hmm.
it for me. So
Yeah, and that's a cool, the poem intertwined in it. We've actually had a number of these podcasts finish up with my guest whenever they're from Iceland reciting some
oh, okay, well,
poetry.
oh my gosh.
Do you think
Okay.
there are, it doesn't have to be from that, but maybe do you have some lines of
Yeah.
poetry that you could
Okay.
maybe recite
Cool.
for us and we could bring us out of the podcast?
Yes. Yes. Let me
Okay.
just find a book.
Sure,
Just
sure.
one moment.
No problem.
Okay. So Einar Már, he's one of my favorite poets. I've uh, I've composed to many of his poems. Let's see. What was the name of that poem? Okay. Okay, I will read this one. This is interesting. Okay. So in Icelandic, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Okay. Okay, this is, I feel this is a little bit relevant because we've had these volcanic eruptions near
Ah,
Grindavik,
yes. Hmm.
and I saw just on Roof.is, the national radio, that
Hmm.
we are waiting for even one more, maybe.
Hmm.
There might be one more on the way.
Hmm.
So this is called Eldfjall í vindi, Volcano in the Wind, Eldfjall í vindi. Víst vissum við að tómleikinn er rótgróinn borgarhluti í hjartanu og einveran sálarlíf þessa staðar. Göturnar fullar af hjartslætti, trén eins og frostrósir í minningunni. Og þessi reikuli hugur þitt hús. Það er ský undir tungli, það er skuggi af kletti. Fortíðin dansar sem eldfjall í vindi. Glugginn sem speglast í öldunum er opinn, skuggar og ský sem fiðlur á lofti. Við fjúkum sem aska steinaldir húsa og höngum í stuðara myrkurs. Yeah, nice. But yeah, I hope you can understand this. This is I really like his poetry, but there are some
Yeah.
English translations also
Okay.
to be found from Einar Már. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, Hafdís, thank you for doing this with me. This was a very fun conversation, and I think
Thank you.
timely. Like for me personally, I hope others find it relevant to them. But I've been myself just exploring more about music and artistic endeavors and seeing how many things, like just I put just in quotations, but a podcast and these sorts of things, how that is all kind of contributing to, in some sort of a way, like it's a artistic production. And I hope more and more people feel like they themselves too have this thing, whether you're writing or writing poetry or making music, whatever it is. I think that's very important to live a good life. So thank
Yeah.
you very much. I hope everyone enjoyed listening.
Thank you, Jack.